Record.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the PTZ Optics Sports webinar. Here we are in October. Very excited to be hosting this webinar. I'm going to start by introducing our speakers, and then we're going to jump right into some awesome. Oh, hello, David from Orlando. Yeah, if you're joining us, let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to say hi. I'm going to start by introducing our guests. And then I'm going to share a quick video from the field submitted to us from Jason from Sideline Power. He has been really innovating on the sidelines what can be done today. So my name is Paul Richards. I'm from PTZOptics. I'm joined with Keith Simpson from Sky Coach and Jason Kazar from Sideline Power. We're going to start with a video that Jason submitted here. Really excited about this. I want to make sure everybody can hear this. I'm going to just make sure I share this properly. And I want to make sure everyone can hear because Jason is going to walk us through how he's been using Sky Coach and PTZ cameras in a really interesting way for football. And we'll go from there. All right, I'm going to play this now. Here we go.
All right, so we got the action on the field here. Down in the end zone, we got nobody. We're doing remote control, one cord coming down, going into the system there, and then we're using the Sky Coach antenna to send it up to the antennas on the top of the press box there, and that feeds into everything. So control and video, using the Sky Coach network to do all that. Just a couple things to plug in there, power source, use the antenna. All right, here's our setup here in Manhattan. We got the game obviously down here, and then we have our Sky Coach system set up. Got the replay tripod. We got the Studio 4K. Down below we got our tackle box from Sky Coach. And then over here we got a scoreboard shot. So it's just a still shot on the scoreboard. And then we got our antennas, one aiming down the end zone, the other one aiming down at our box down there. System starts the recording. You see that all the dots go to record. There's the action. Play is over. Somebody downstairs starting it and stopping it. Getting all three views. And then sending it, getting that end zone shot. That top one's pointed down at the end zone, and this one's pointed down at our sideline.
All right. So Jason shared that with us, and I wanted to kick it off with that just to mention, kind of show how Jason's getting out there, and Keith is as well. But Jason, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what we were looking at there.
Yeah, well, hey, appreciate you having me on here, and shout out to you, obviously, letting me showcase all this PTZOptics equipment. And then shout out to Keith here for helping me when I'm in a bind sometimes, getting everything set up before a game. And yeah, so I use the PTZOptics stuff for every Friday night for our football games. And in those videos there, I had our Sky Coach equipment because we use that for our coaches replay. So everybody, again, as I shared with you, Paul, I think everybody's got to understand there's a difference between coaches replay and then there's obviously the production side of things and their replay. But we use Sky Coach for our replay for the coaches, and then we use the Move SC camera in the end zone up on that tower. It's about 25 feet up. And then we're using the Studio 4K this year, and I've gotten compliments from not only our coaches our coaches on our team, but also coaches from other schools that get our trade film. They've made comments about how good the film looks. And so that's been great to hear. And then in that setup, like Paul said, I've been kind of pushing the envelope, so to speak, on what we can do and doing a lot of different things. In that example, the videos you saw, we had the wide shot, the all 22 as we call it, up top on the press box, shooting with the Studio 4K, being controlled by someone there on a tripod. And then in the coach's box, in our press box, we had the Super Joy connected to Sky Coach, and it was getting the video via the Sky Coach antennas from the end zone. So I had a very minimal setup in the end zone, and that's what I showed there. I was showing how I've been using the weather pods that are available that maybe some people see on like soccer, travel soccer teams, or even like baseball and softball games. A lot of parents will sit in those little pods when it's inclement weather. And I had that all protected. We had a little rain that game prior to, so I just wanted to make sure if we had a rainstorm pop up, it was protected. And I had it in there. And then I had just one cord going up to the studio, or to the Move SE in the end zone, and it was sending that signal through the Sky Coach antennas up to the press box, so the kid there could move the camera with the joystick on the Super Joy, and we could get that coach's replay and everything from there. So really excited to do all those types of things with the PTZOptics setup, as well as Sky Coach integrated.
Love what you're doing, and I'm excited to jump in to see some of the footage that Keith has been using with their customers. Just to kind of walk you through some of the things we've been talking about here from a visual standpoint. One of the things Keith has been showing is the ability to take a camera and remotely control it. Now, in his case, we were remotely controlling the camera in the press box, but we can control these cameras from anywhere in the world. And I know Jason's been testing that out, making it easier for coaches to record their practices and games. So I want to ask you a little bit about that. As an athletic director, it's kind of a big deal because your video team can stay back at their office and they can have a tennis court, they can have a baseball field, they can have a basketball court and manage everything remotely. I wanted to step you through kind of some of the wiring diagrams because there was a lot of cables, a lot going on. Um, the first place a lot of our customers start is just how do I live stream the game and make it look decent? And so what you're seeing here is a simple live streaming system. We use a lot of NDI, which is an IP video protocol, and we're using what's called a YOLO box here in this scenario. But look what happens when we start to use Sky Coach. What we do is we have each camera has what they call a remote camera kit, an RCK. And that's what you were seeing Jason showing in the videos there. These RCK units are able to, a little touch screen, able to start and stop recording the clips, able to mark the downs, able to provide, filtering and tagging for the coach who ultimately has a smart tablet, right? Who has an iPad. And we're showing that there. In addition, one of the things we saw is sometimes instead of using a camera to plug right into the RCK unit, we're using our SuperJoy controllers. Our SuperJoy controllers give you the ability to have an HDMI output that can plug right into the RCK. So what that allows you to do, and Jason showed in that video, is your camera can be all the way down at the end zone, right? It could be at the end of, kind of far away, and you can have the SuperJoy on the same network providing the HDMI video to the RCK remotely. So we were showing that. And then this is pretty advanced, but this is like kind of another step forward. As you can see, these cameras can be wireless. And SkyCoach provides a really good point-to-point wireless system where not only is this stuff wireless, but it can be remotely controllable. And I think the next logical step here before we go too far is to let Keith show what SkyCoach enables and why coaches and sports athletes are so excited about having these better angles and different cameras.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate you having me on today. I'm Keith Simpson with Sky Coach. That Jason showed a portable system that he's taken field to field. I'll start by just talking about a couple of examples of fixed systems that are interchangeable where they can take parts of it with them on the road. So they've got fixed at their home stadium and then they can carry on the road if they need. And then I'll show you just some video footage of what coaches are typically looking at. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen right here. This is one of the teams we've recently shipped equipment to, but basically this team has a PTZ camera on the Move SC 20X on top of a pole in their north end zone and on top of a pole in their south end zone. They also have one on top of their roof. So up here on this roof, they've got a PTZ camera here. So this PTZ camera is hardwired in via Ethernet to our control room. So this is our control room where everything's going to happen. These cameras are coming in via antenna bridges that Jason and Paul had mentioned. So we're going to use wireless communication to those two camera areas. So within this building, down in this little room right here, we have a control room. So they've got 3 SuperJoy controllers, one for each camera. We also have a switch that's linking everything up. But from here, we have coaches accessing the video in this room, coaches accessing the video in this room. We have coaches accessing on this sideline and coaches accessing on this sideline. And then we have officials that are reviewing plays like targeting or coach challenged plays down here in the bottom of the field on the southwest side. What they're doing in these particular cases, so in this case, down in that room, so if we go to the room on this picture here, so down in this room, you have a switch that's going to power all the antennas we're using to communicate to those different locations. I forgot to mention they have coaches across the field as well in another box. They've got coaches antennas that are going into their room. We've got the PTZ camera up on the roof. We've got the server in that room. Within that room, we have those SuperJoy controllers with our RCKs connected to it. And then down at the field, we have a wireless antenna for each end zone camera, and then we have a review Wi-Fi, a home sideline Wi-Fi, and a visitor sideline Wi-Fi. So that's one of the examples, but our teams can carry portions of these with them. So when they go on the road, they might take a set of sideline antennas. They may take just an end zone antenna, and then they're just going to take the antennas that communicate to those two places in their little toolbox that kind of puts it all together. Jason showed some video that had the little parts, but it makes it easy to just separate the pieces we need and leave the pieces that we don't need to take on the road with us. Another example of this was we did an indoor facility as well, where they have a similar scenario, but they've got 5 cameras. So we had 4 indoor cameras, 1 outdoor camera for their outdoor practice field. All of that was coming back to a single control room where we had the 5 SuperJoy controllers with RCKs connected up to each one of those. And so they just have student managers in here filming practice for the team, as well as outdoor practices. And then they could take the portable pieces with them on the road. So we've got stuff fiber installed, but they also just grab the router and the RCKs to take with them on the particular road. I'm going to show up, as part of the question is what are coaches and officials looking at on the field? So I'm going to try to share my screen here. And can you see my screen now? Can you see my iPad, Paul?
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, sorry.
right.
Yes, we can.
So typically the coaches are accessing one end zone view and typically a sideline view. And the goal is, have a good view of the field. So if I were to go watch one of these plays, they're getting a good, nice shot on the box, the area that they're concerned about. They're looking at like player alignment. Is he inside of my lineman? Is he outside of my lineman, or just straight heads up? So they want to get good shots on alignment of the players. And a lot of times when you're watching the play, as we go through this video, you'll see that, they stay fixed on that box pretty much. So they're almost always keeping the entire offensive line, defensive line in that view. But they may get to a point where they want to look at it from a different perspective. So this would be like the offensive line coach, but the backs coach and the receivers coach, they might want to switch over. And if you noticed, I switched over at the same point in the play. We've got the quarterback with the ball here. And so now I'm watching it from what Jason referred to as the all 22 view, where if I go back to the beginning of this clip, you'll see they try to get all 22 players in this video. And so we've got 11 on the defense, 11 on the offense, and they're just trying to keep it all together. And if these receivers were to run all the way down the field, you would see them zooming out. This was a run play, so there wasn't a lot of zoom out on this to show that they were trying to keep everybody in that box. Um, but that's what the coaches are looking at. Now, the officials, not sure if I do have a review play here. So the officials might be looking at things like, was the foot in bounds or not? So in this particular play, the question becomes, the coach challenged it, was this a legitimate catch or not? So as you can see, we've got foot in bounds here, and that's pretty clear. But did he hold on to the ball all the way through? Now, I can't see on this particular angle. I can try to switch over to the other angle at this point. We still see foot down. We see ball is in his hand. We don't have clarity on whether that ball hit the sideline or not or stayed within his hands. So if they called this a catch, they're probably going to leave this a catch. So they're looking for anything to potentially overturn the call. But that's kind of what Sky Coach is making possible with the cameras that you're seeing today. And that is, we try to get it during the game to the coaches, to the officials, so that they can make decisions as the game is taking place.
Yeah, I've had using Sky Coach, and maybe we could look at a couple other sports outside of football as well. I've been taking it to rugby, and we took it to lacrosse, and I'm about to take it to volleyball. And every sport's a little unique, so maybe we could talk a little bit about that. Volleyball, each sport has a different camera layout, and I'm excited to do volleyball. I'm doing volleyball in a couple weeks with Westchester University, and like the net camera is obviously so important with volleyball. One of the things that interests me a lot was, I come at this more from a let's live stream the game perspective. And talking to Keith, it's interesting how the camera positions are really different when you're trying to figure out, did the ball go, was it in or out for volleyball, for example. And Keith, maybe you can speak to that. It seems like sometimes, depending on where you put the PTZ cameras, you can reposition them fairly easily with presets, remotely moving them. But it's really, I don't know if for some of our viewers, if they are interested more in the live streaming part or the instant replay part, but you oftentimes want to zoom out more than you would if you are really interested in a production value like ESPN style, because you're more trying to capture specific areas.
That's actually, I can talk about it at multiple levels, but even within the football space. So a lot of our conferences, not only are the coaches watching, but the officials are watching. There's rules about what the coaches can look at. They can only look at like one end zone, one press box, and one production feed. But the officials, they want to, as you saw in that video, I couldn't see was the ball in his hands or not when he hit the ground. They want as many camera angles as they can. And sometimes a good coach's video is perfect for it, but sometimes you need like that hero cam or whatever that's like super zoomed into the player. And so that you could see balls bouncing around in their arms or touching the ground. And so, yeah, there's a big difference between what the coaches are looking at and what the production value is sometimes. You might not want to stay focused in on the star receiver if something's happening on the other side of that play. But yeah, I can show you some videos of different sports and different views perspectives, if that's something you'd like to see. And most of these are going to be from officials' perspective, what they want to see as opposed to the coaches when we look at these other sports. So let me share my iPad again. And so what I'll do is I'm going to go into a basketball example. And so let me just scroll down to some actual play. What you're going to see here is we've got, one camera that's just fixed on this side of the court. And so, we can watch plays here, but we also have a camera that's on the net right there. So this camera, if I go back and I'm going to hide these buttons, you can see this camera is fixed right there, but you've got a camera that's shooting straight down the net. And this is just to see, did their hands or anything touch the net, that kind of stuff. And then we've got another camera on the opposite side. Now, you could look at this and you say, hey, I'd love, 3 cameras on each side and one on each side of the net. But you have to think about, the cost perspective of this for each team. How many cameras are they going to lay out? Our system will support all of them, but not everybody can afford 6, 7, 8 cameras. So, typically they're going to get one side of the court, the net cam, and the other side of the court. In a baseball scenario, so here's a baseball play. Typically what you see here is you'll see one that's on the first base bag, and they try to get the second base bag in this play as well. Then you'll see the same thing from the third base bag with the second base bag in that view. And then you've got the typical production follow-up camera here. I don't know if this one was fixed or if they were following. But in this particular play, if they were reviewing what happened here, okay, this looks like it's going to be a play at first base. So I'm probably going to get this a little closer and just switch over to the first base. And then the question probably will become, is his foot on the bag? He hasn't closed his glove yet. So foot is on the bag. Now he's closing glove. So he was safe there. So that's a typical baseball layout. As far as basketball might go, here's an example where we've got cameras in each corner, and you can see the SkyCoach antennas here to communicate to the different locations. We got cameras in each corner, and then we've got cameras up at the top of the place. So we had 4 in this particular game. So I'm just going to go down to some gameplay here. So, we've got this view, we've got this particular view, this view, and then we've got another one from the other side. So we can incorporate as many as you want, but a lot of times that's going to be restricted to budget or how many camera operators they can put out at the field at a time. And some of these can be fixed as well. Like I think most of these cameras were fixed. So in those cases, you wouldn't need the Super Joy to follow along in a lot of them, unless one of these was your production feed, which could be this one. This is more of a production follow along feed there. So yeah, the same system is robust enough to use with any particular sport. The layout of the cameras, as Paul was referring to, you can do some things like those PTZ cameras if you have the presets, so you could put them in specific places in your gym and use presets for the different sports. So like in volleyball and basketball, we might be using the same gym and we can use the same cameras, but we're focused on different aspects of what we're trying to look at. So by the presets, you could have your basketball presets, you could have your volleyball presets where you've changed the angle of what they're particularly looking at. You can even, that net cam, you don't need that for basketball. So now that could become your production cam, where you've moved that camera up to the top, maybe put it on a tripod or use the PTZ follow along. But they're reusing equipment is, as Paul's mentioned, you got these small school budgets. They're trying to manage all these different locations. The more that you can reuse at each location or move into the hive and control that all remotely, the better off you are trying to handle all those different sports with the small number of staff that they have. I've heard stories of people, 3 games in a day, and they're running across, taking cameras from one game to the other. And the more that you can get installed and optimized for that specific location, the better off you are.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that, Jason. A couple things that I hear a lot from our customers is, there's a lot of areas like a basketball court where you're going to have basketball, you're going to have volleyball, you're going to have possibly wrestling, and so it's a shared space. And so when you do a lot in one space, it's nice to, spend a little extra money to have those cameras permanently installed. Right. And so if you're going to have them permanently installed, there's a lot of benefits to that. You can have them on all the time. They can be powered over Ethernet. You can control them remotely from your office and have the video there. And I want to transition to showing PTZOptics Hive really quickly. It's set up in our studio here. But you could see how this is designed so that you could have each of your locations. So if you have, different gymnasiums and different sports fields, you can have it all in one unified interface. And you can click a share button. And if you have student volunteers or members of your team, you can copy a link, email it to them, and they literally, through no download at all, right through a web browser, can start to control the cameras. Now, from a control perspective, as Keith mentioned, a lot of sports are back and forth, right? So you're going up and down the field, and that's for the live viewer, right? Because the live viewers expect to kind of see a little bit of what they've seen from television, right? Watching their favorite sports. But if you're in a gymnasium, but you're resetting up for volleyball, a lot of what you're doing is just repositioning once. It's just a quick reposition, make sure all the boundary lines are in place. So you're just kind of clicking a few cameras, making sure they're zoomed out far enough, making sure that you've got all the views so that the officials replay is set up so that you catch every out of bounds, you catch the net view. And depending on where you put the cameras, for wrestling, you might be zoomed in completely differently than you would be for volleyball. So by permanently installing the cameras, you lose a little bit of flexibility, but you save so much time. And if they are robotic cameras that you're wall mounting and getting kind of out of the way and permanently, moving toward the future of how you're going to handle video, then you have the flexibility of remotely controlling them and monitoring them. So with that being said, video is easier and easier to move around once it's on the network, right? And so every PTZOptics camera that we've ever manufactured, it's always powered over Ethernet and connected to a network. What SkyCoach has created is really interesting because some of the things we were looking at there, and I'll pull up my slide deck again because Jason shared some really interesting pictures, is that SkyCoach is giving us a toolbox to put everything in, making the networking part super simple, and then providing a video preview for the camera operator. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about this, Keith, because I know you work with all these different sports, and maybe Jason, you could chime in on what you're doing here. But essentially, camera operators are often necessary if you're going to go all the way to providing instant replay and sideline instant replay, right? And clipping for coaches. Is it a set and forget situation? Is it always different? Are there always camera operators? Because I can see that you have these RCK units, and oftentimes somebody is clicking start and stop, right? Because there's clipping, and the coaches don't want to review the whole 2-hour game. They just want to review each individual play.
So it depends on the sport. So in football, most of the time you're not playing. So if you think about a football game, most of the time you're standing around. And the coaches don't want to waste time to fast forward and rewind through that video. So what the coaches are looking at, a typical play is less than 10 seconds. So most of their clips are like a 6 to 8 second clip, and they've seen everything they needed to see. Likewise for the officials. When it comes to basketball, or what we call, we call them start-stop sports and non-start stop-start sports. So baseball, volleyball, football, those are all stop-start sports. But then you get into soccer, you get into lacrosse, you get into basketball, we call them continuous sports. And so in that case, you're just continuously recording, but it could be at anywhere around the field that you're trying to look at. So somebody's typically going to be following that, except for the ends, like the goal areas, hockey, soccer. You might have fixed cameras on those locations for a ball crossing the line, hitting the bar, whatever that might be. In football, the coach, they have very specific stuff they want to see. So you've got the all 20. So that's why they have the defined section. So it's almost always going to be a manned camera. There are some AI cameras that are coming out that are trying to do some of that, but in almost all cases, most people are relying on a manned whether they're a joystick or they're on a tripod, following that action, following that play, because they don't want to see the whole field. They want to be zoomed in enough to see what they need to see, and they're looking at shapes of the defense, shapes of the offense. So yes, as Jason pointed out, you could reduce the number of people necessary because with Sky Coach, one person's clipping and coding all that data. So it doesn't matter how many cameras you have up, one person hits start and stop and all the angles start recording at the exact same time, and they're associating data with it. So this is 1st and 10 on the 20-yard line. We're on offense. They gain 6 yards. So they're able to capture all that data as well as start and stop all those camera angles, a single person. That same person can actually operate a camera as well because it's so simple to just click those buttons that they can also use the SuperJoy, to turn, move, the rest of it, or sit there and, follow along with the tripod like Jason had one set up there. But yes, for the officials, you will have more of the fixed cameras, the goal lines pointing down the goal lines or the net or whatever that might be. Does that answer that question, Paul?
It does, and it reminds me of I think that it was either you or Jason that sent me a video of the referees. Let me see if I can find this. I think I've got it, but I've got a couple of little pictures and videos that you guys sent, and this is a referee. Maybe you could explain what's going on here. So essentially, this is the iPad, right, that the referee has. He's simply
That's right.
clicking to see the video, but they're showing it up on a big screen. Is that because they need to show more details, or is that because there's multiple referees that need to be able to see it?
Let me explain. So in college, they're not allowed to have TVs like this, but this is a college. And so this particular scenario was a spring game, and so they were trying to show more people, which you can see in the background of the TV there. You can see people standing behind them. So this was a demo scenario, but it's absolutely perfect because it allows you to see what that referee's seeing. They don't usually use TVs, especially in football. They just go to that iPad, look at what they're looking at. But in this particular case, there was a targeting call on the field. And in football, if you get called for targeting, you're out for a whole game. And so that means that
Wow.
player, he might only get 10 games in his whole college career, and he's got to miss one of them because he just flagrantly hit somebody in the head with his helmet. So that is a big thing for colleges. And if you play this video, you're going to see he's able to zoom in quickly to determine whether this was targeting or not. Before they started doing this, they didn't get to review it until halftime or after the game. So that player might lose quite a bit in that scenario or lose a lot of game time. And it's even bigger. What you were looking at is a community college scenario. This was Hutchinson Community College. Their players, they only get so much time on tape to try to get recruited by D1, D2 school. So every minute on the field counts. And if they get taken
Mm.
out of a game, that could ruin their whole opportunity to get game film that could showcase what they're capable of. So as you see this referee, he's gonna come to this point. He's gonna try to determine, did that player lead with the helmet, or was this a safe tackle? And so we're not going to take them out of the field. I actually have that play if I needed to pull mine up to show it. Um, but the
Yeah.
TVs are high schools. The high schools, when the football team comes off the field, when you've got your offensive line, and I've got some pretty cool footage that I could show in
Yeah,
just a
sure.
second if you give me just a second. Well, if you want to talk around some others. Generally, when it's TVs, it's high schools. The coaches are trying to watch with the players. And then because you can't hold an iPad up and try to get 5 offensive linemen behind you to look at that iPad. There's big shoulder pads, big players. So you generally want to project it up on a TV so they can all sit down and look and you can go over it with all of them. But the officials, they typically just go to the iPad. And so I could show you 2 live examples. If you've got something else you want to talk about, I can open a couple up real quick and have them ready.
Yeah. No, thank you for showing all that. We made this video about where to place the cameras. I think this is another example here, and I stitched this together, Jason, from video that you sent me. Um, but this is showing, the officials on the sideline there, making a play and reviewing a play. Sometimes it's just on a little iPad. Sometimes it's on a big TV. I guess as Keith said, there's rules against using a big TV sometimes. Did you send this over, Jason? Was this a video that you took?
Yeah, the one on the right. Yeah, that's we're a Washburn College game, and they were reviewing some plays, and throughout the game, there's usually I think on average they do a great job statting everything throughout their whole conference. I think they average one review a game is what the average is,
Wow.
and most of them take less than I think they've said like 20 or 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. All the reviews take under that because they're only looking at one play and they go right to it. It's right there. They're not spending a lot of time having to find anything, so they can go right to that play, look at it, make their call, and get back on the field. So they're getting better and better at that. Obviously, now we're in year 4 with the MIAA. A lot of those white hats, they're really used to now Sky Coach. They know exactly where to go with that system. And then every game, like they're doing here at Hutchinson, they do a training there at Hutchinson Community College. I'm sorry, they do one at Hutchinson. This is at Butler Community College. They do trainings there for a lot of their refs in the area, and they're just getting better and better at it and more comfortable. They know when they show up at a game, they know how Sky Coach works, and that makes them be more efficient. And now we just got to get some PTZ optics cameras for these schools.
Yeah. No, I'll let Keith show a couple more of those
Yep.
clips because I think the referees go unthought of sometimes in the early stages and just really thinking about where's their iPad, do they have a TV, where's their antennas, and I'm so glad you've thought through that.
Yeah, the video that I showed earlier, whether his foot was in bounds or not, I can show you Jason actually captured the video of them reviewing that play. So that's one picture that I'm going to show here. So if I go to this one and click play, this is an actual review on the field. So that team, we just challenged it. So he's stopping the play. What you're going to see him do is he's going to jog down to a review tent. And then he's just going to grab the iPad and he's going to go over that particular play. You could see the antenna sitting there, but he's able to go to that iPad. He's able to open it up. And this is the exact play I just pulled up for you guys. If I turn the video on, you'd hear him talking through, foot down, ball in hand, looking at that information. So this is typically what the officials are doing during the game on the field. And then this is what our high schools are typically doing. And so this is an example of coaches coming at. So this is in the middle of a big time game. This is a 5A state champions from Reston High School in Louisiana playing a quarterfinalist from Texas Longview High School. And so when the kids come off the field during the game, this is right when these kids came off this field, they ran over here, they sat down at a table. The coaches pull the plays up. They connect their iPad to the TV with the HDMI converter. And so they go over, exactly what just happened on the field with their players. So, well, yeah, that was it. That was just the picture there that I wanted to show. It was about that table layout or the TV layout. It's the fastest one I could get to.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see all of this. And Jason, you're on the sidelines quite a bit. I know this is busy season for you. You're probably really just going out all the time. What are some tips you have for everybody, Jason?
Yeah, you gotta do the training with Sky Coach. And then we also have where John there at PTZ Optics is available as well to help everybody get their cameras set up, maximized to optimal settings, to where everything can be efficiently brought into. Obviously Sky Coach is the preferred replay system. And so you got to do the trainings first. That's one thing. Some people think they can just figure it all out. We're like, well, it's not that easy. So we always recommend you do the trainings. And so really great to have Sky Coach and their team be there. You can do as many Zooms as you want before the game to go over that setting. And then now with John at PTZ Optics, another avenue to go over some trainings with some Zooms before the game to just make sure your cameras are all set up. And then you just got to give yourself time to get everything set up before the game. I don't like being in a rush and getting being stressed to get everything set up. So I always like to get there early. I like to divide it up. Make sure you have somebody that maybe, hey, you guys go set up the end zone. You guys go set up the press box. And then maybe have somebody in charge of like the replay. And by dividing up and conquering, it really just allows you to make sure you don't make any mistakes, setting things up, and that you get everything where it needs to be. And then it just becomes, you become a specialist in that area. All right, I'm the end zone setups person. I'm the press box person. And, obviously in a lot of states, they'll have a sideline TV, like you saw there, Keith showing. So, hey, you guys go set up all that. And by doing that, it just allows everybody to do it right. You can do some testing. Keith has a way that you can test the signals and make sure everything is strong there. Make sure all your cameras are good from PTZOptics. Make sure your cords. That's one of the great things that I've really loved about this is that from game to game, if a cord gets damaged, maybe some kids are doing something and they mess up doing something. You can always, that's the nice thing about the PTZOptics cameras is these cords are readily available to replace and get something ready to go for the game. That's I think one of the big strengths for a film crew is knowing that these cables are readily available and can save you time and a lot of stress. That's for sure. Getting everything set up. And I know that's some comments that even a lot of our coaches that I've sold the PTZOptics stuff to is they always comment that, oh, it's so easy to set up now, coach. And it's just the Cat 5 in the back and some of them are even putting in the full size HDMI. That can really make a difference. That can really alleviate hassle and stress on a Friday night, especially before a game. And it's one of those things, unless you've done it, I know Keith's done it himself, unless you've been there and dealt with those micro and mini HDMIs and multi-ports for those handy cams that have been so rarely used over the last decade, 2 decades, whatever, you really don't understand that. But if you do any kind of end zone or press box camera work, you find out real quick what that means. And that is such a huge advantage of the PTZOptics and equipment, and then it plugs right into SkyCoach, so you're ready to rock and roll with the replay. It makes a big difference. So giving yourself time, again, the trainings beforehand and the days before, but then the day of, make sure you're going out there and you're taking your time and you're setting up well in advance of the game, and then just divide up and conquer because it is a lot of equipment. And those first couple of times you do it, it can be a little overwhelming. You're like, wow, I'm setting up a network, SkyCoach. Oh, I'm setting up these PTZOptics cameras that I'm not, they're new. They're kind of being new to the film world here, especially for high school. And I'm really excited to have you helping with that, Paul. You and your team there. I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of programs, not only football but baseball. I'm really excited about baseball, basketball, volleyball. Sharing these things with them. The Studio 4K, I think that's going to be a great camera to introduce to the market or to the space, the high school space, the small college, where they can they're looking for an affordable camera that's a really good camera. I think I told you guys offline is that I've had guys comment, our coaches at our high school, they've commented, man, that wide shot looks great. It's that Studio 4K this year compared to the cameras we've used in the past. They've commented how well they look this year on the film. And I even had some schools that we traded film with. They were like, man, that camera angle looks great. What are you guys using? Well, I'm using a Studio 4K, I'm starting to introduce these things. And doing all those things are really going to make your life a lot more, the experience a lot more enjoyable on a Friday night or any other kind of game day in any other sport. And just make the coaches happy because that's what they want. They want good quality film that they can look at and make corrections. Every snap is an opportunity to not only make corrections but also to coach a player up. Because whether you're down 20 or up 50, you're always going to be able to coach those kids on their technique, and so that's where the good cameras from PTZOptics as well as the replay, getting that down quickly to the coaches, to the players, with Sky Coach really makes a difference for everybody. So hopefully that kind of gives everybody an idea of just what I suggest doing to be ready for your competition.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jason. This was coming at it again from a lot of our customers are we want to live stream and we just want to let parents see this, and then starting to realize that there's coaches who want this footage, there's referees that need this footage. It's starting to become required to be able to provide video replay in various leagues. It really started to open my mind to, oh, camera positions are different based on like who the audience is. In fact, Keith, you actually broke one of the rules I was taught as a broadcaster. It's the 180-degree, broadcasting rule. Always put the cameras on one side, so the viewer always knows which way the ball's going. And then I saw you had a camera on the other side, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is he doing? But it doesn't matter for replay. That's the exception to the rule.
That's
And I
right.
love it. I love it. It's making, and that we need cameras that are more zoomed out. Doesn't look like you would see on ESPN, but when you're using that iPad to make sure that line is in there, it's absolutely critical. So I hope that this was super helpful for everyone. There's a lot of new stuff coming out. I'm really excited to do this quarterly. Sideline Power's working on some secret projects that I know about. Jason, did you do something you wanted to mention?
Yeah. I just wanted to really also share the Hive thing that you and I have been working on with John, and I've obviously shared that with Keith and made that connect with Sky Coach, and I think that is really going to be something that a lot of people are going to be excited about, especially at the football world with the end zone camera systems that a lot of people don't understand. Those end zone, they're out there in the middle, nobody's around there. You're kind of out in the weather, and you always can't find somebody to do an end zone shot. People don't want to just stand there by themselves and film from the end zone. I mean, it's such an important shot. If I could choose the wide or the end zone, I'm choosing the end zone because you can just make that's where it happens, the trenches, and that's where you're going to win, lose games. And so it's such an important shot, and that's the moment I usually shoot on Friday nights because it's so important. I want to make sure that the coach is getting that shot. But doing stuff with the Hive is going to enable us to maybe allow people that aren't at the stadium to tap into that shot, no matter where they are. And just to highlight John Roberts there at PTZOptics, we've done some stuff where he was operating from Pennsylvania. He was recording a game. We were doing a middle school game. He was doing the end zone at the middle school game. He did a soccer game for us, and he was controlling the camera from Pennsylvania. And there was practically no delay in the camera. That's the first question that I had myself, and even sharing it with some people. Is there a delay in the camera? Going from Manhattan, Kansas, all the way back to Pennsylvania and vice versa. But there's really milliseconds. I mean, just unnoticeable, really, from the snap of the ball that I saw live versus John. I'm on a phone with John, and as soon as the ball snapped, I said, snapped. And he's like, yeah, just snapped. I mean, there was like no delay. And it's just amazing what technology has now done. It's not dial up, obviously. We got fiber connections all the way to Pennsylvania, but it really makes it a possibility that you could have somebody at the school, maybe on an away game, somebody at the schools working cameras for the coaches. And all the coach has to do is just kind of connect everything and set up a way to get it. That's one thing obviously we're working through is that. But if you can do that, what a great avenue to enable more people to get involved with the program. Maybe you have, again, kids at the school. Maybe you have people that are just fans of the program. They're like, yeah, I'll help you film. I can do it from home. Yeah, even better. I don't have to be out in the rain and the cold or whatever. And that Hive program that you showed earlier, it's really going to enable this other kind of avenue, I think, for that. And then I can't imagine, obviously, for the basketball, volleyball, some of those sports, baseball, even easier. Some of those shots where you can have just some still cameras and then maybe one camera roaming. I think that would be a great opportunity for someone from afar to do the whole game, and then provide the replay. So I think your PTZOptics, the Hive program, is really going to open some of those doors, and I appreciate you letting me try those out and get some some pictures and videos, of course, and so I just wanted to speak on that, just so that everybody that's watching and watches this later can really kind of start thinking about is that Hive program that you guys have.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that because I was thinking our next quarterly webinar. It seems like it's a good cadence. Every 3 months we come back and something's new. I know Sideline Power is working on some interesting special projects that we can't talk about now, but maybe in 3 months, maybe in 6 months. I know PTZOptics is working on a few things, and 80-something% of sports organizations are looking into remote production because they're traveling, they're trying to cut costs and everything. And Hive and SkyCoach together with PTZOptics is really interesting. So next webinar, we're going to look a little deeper into Hive. We're going to give you guys, the audience, the ability to control some cameras and test them. I'm going to try to get a couple into Westchester University, our local university here, so we can test them in a real world scenario. And trying to think what else was the thing I wanted to wrap with. But next quarter as well, I want to invite some of these sports analytics companies to look at the footage. It's incredible what they can do with AI now. And I met a couple of them at a recent broadcasting convention. I want to invite them in to, SkyCoach is recording it and providing it live. But once it's recorded, the AI can actually do some incredible things to break down the plays and give intelligence. So we'll keep expanding, we'll keep learning, we'll keep sharing. Thank you everybody for joining. And if you want to get in touch with Keith or Jason, they can share their emails, maybe in the chat. But these guys know their stuff. I've learned a lot from them, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Jason. Is there anything you want to end with, or did we cover everything today?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, just thanks for the time to share and excited about the next 3 months. Yeah, the next one. Yeah.
Definitely enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Thanks, David. Take care, everybody. Bye.